Hello everybody, and welcome to my guide to how the guild I am in defeats Joloral Ragetide in the Drowned Halls. This is the second boss of the instance and requires good communication in the raid, especially between the two tanks. We use a main tank for this boss and an off tank for the larger adds. The main tank will need at least one dedicated healer and possibly a second depending on their gear, along with a few support healers. The off tank should take little damage, so the raid healing should be able to keep him topped up. The rest of the raid should be DPS using specs suited for single target damage. The first problem with this fight will come from the pool. Ragetide will have an add that walks around him in his room. This add gives Ragetide a buff that will mean the boss does 30% more damage. Ragetide hits pretty firmly to begin with, so with this buff he can quite possibly kill the tank. Ragetide will also get another buff increasing his damage by another 30% while he is stood in the pool in the middle of the room. This stacks with the buff from the add, so if he has both, the tank is almost certainly going to be killed unless he and the healer both use several of their cooldowns. People should be careful, as if anyone goes beyond about the second step down into the room, they could aggro the boss. To start this fight, we have the main tank pull the boss to the bottom left of his room, while the off tank grabs the add and pulls it to the top right. Both need to pull their targets at approximately the same time, as the combined damage of the boss and the add, along with the buff they receive for being close to each other, can quite easily kill a tank or one of the healers. Once they are in position, we have all range run to the centre of the room and melee run to the back of the boss as normal. There are three things to watch out for in this fight. First, you'll get a screen message that Ragetide is glaring at someone. That person will be routed, and after a few seconds anyone close to him will be silenced. This will normally be one of the ranged in the centre. We have everyone run away from them, normally heading towards the staircase we entered from, but anywhere around the outside is fine. They just have to be careful not to be cleaved if the add or the boss is being moved at the time. The second ability is that the boss will summon some small adds. You'll get a screen message saying Joloral Ragetide calls for creatures of the sea. Two sets of 3 small adds will spawn, one after the other, and begin walking towards the boss. If they reach him, they will put a buff on him increasing his damage for 20 seconds for each one that he eats. This is where your tanks need to communicate, as the big egg can also eat these. He will gain the same damage increase, but this will be much smaller as he does a lot less damage to begin with. The tanks need to rotate round the room with their respective targets to have the add eat the summoned creatures, while also making sure the boss does not get too close to the larger add to avoid them buffing each other. Depending on how long the fight goes on for, Ragetide will summon a second and possibly third of the larger adds. These should be picked up by the off tank and dragged round with the original add. If the damage on the off tank becomes too much, these can be killed as long as one is left alive to eat the smaller adds. If the movement of the boss and the pull can be managed, this fight is reasonably simple and the boss should be defeated. Thank you for watching. I've been Zero Override and I wish you luck with this boss.